Folks, you could say that yesterday was quite a day in congressional history. Quite a rough one for former Speaker McCarthy, first speaker to get kicked out of that position in 205 years of our republic. Matt Gaetz led the charge against him. We were lucky enough, the Beyond Politics podcast, to get an interview with Jamie Raskin. He's one of the toughest, best, smartest Democrats in the House floor. And as the media's cried about the fact that McCarthy's a so-called moderate and asked why Democrats didn't save him, as if that's our job to do, and as if any Republican would vote for a Democratic speaker, I think Jamie Raskin handled it quite well. Watch this video.
So take us inside the room. When Democrats met to decide what to do yesterday morning, and then on the floor as this played out, what went on? What did you see and hear that people just won't get from watching C-SPAN or reading the paper?
It was a unanimous consensus and a passionate consensus, as you saw on the House floor. Nobody needed to have his or her arm twisted in any way. On the contrary, people were getting up and simply contributing to the fervor around it. Because it's off the record, I don't feel comfortable quoting other people, but I'll quote myself. I mean, I got up and I made an impassioned speech about January 6th. And I said, Kevin McCarthy was there on that day, and he knew that Donald Trump was pulling the strings because he called Donald Trump and begged him to call off the insurrectionist army that had arrived and stormed the Capitol, his office, the Senate, the House, attacking the police officers and chasing Vice President Pence. And he asked Trump to call it off, and Trump wouldn't do it. Said, I guess they just care more about the election, fair elections, than you do, Kevin. And yet McCarthy refused to do what Liz Cheney did, who was the chair of the Republican conference, which was to vote for impeachment. He refused to do what 10 other Republican members did. He said instead he would just look for an investigation. And yet when we came to negotiate an investigation, he advocated an independent 9/11 style outside commission with 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, equal subpoena power, equal staff. And even though we were in the majority, we agreed to that. Benny Thompson agreed to that for the Democrats. And he pulled the plug on the whole outside commission idea because Donald Trump vetoed it, saying he didn't want any investigation at all. So then when Pelosi went forward to create an independent House Select Committee to do it with, again, equal numbers of Democrats and Republicans, he did everything he could to block that and lobbied against it on the House floor. And when we created it anyway, then he appointed Jim Jordan, who was a central participant in the attempted overthrow of the 2020 election, to the committee. And then when we subpoenaed McCarthy to get him to testify about his involvement and what he saw and what he knew, he refused to comply with a congressional subpoena. So when all of that ended, he decided to give the security tapes of the House of Representatives to one news entity, Fox News, and then launched into an impeachment investigation of Joe Biden based on nothing, while he voted against the impeachment of Donald Trump for inciting an actual insurrection against the House of Representatives, the first time that it had happened in American history. So people were asking me, are you going to bail him out? I'm like, I will vote 15,000 times and 15 billion times for our leader, Hakeem Jeffries, before I would entertain any offer. But McCarthy didn't call me anyway. He didn't call any Democrats. And people were blaming us for the Civil War and the insurrection, the arts of insurrection, which they had trained their own people in. Gee, where did Matt Gaetz get the idea that it was all right just to overthrow the leader? At least they didn't use violence this time to do it. But MAGA Republicans have to solve the problems that MAGA Republicans create. You got reporters saying, aren't you going to do the reasonable thing and support Kevin McCarthy? And he's a reasonable centrist and moderate now and so on. And everybody's just saying, bullshit. I mean, this guy tried to overthrow our government and we don't owe him anything. And we're supporting Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker of the House. And let's pull over some of their moderates, because we every day, Democratic members of Congress hear from moderate Republicans and independents saying, I can't take it anymore. I'm coming over to the Democratic Party. And we have got to be strong enough and supple enough and creative enough to seize on this moment to create a landslide in 2024 and put the GOP out of business.
You can't say he's not damn good. Representative Raskin made very clear what should be clear to our media, which is McCarthy's no moderate. He's nothing close to a moderate. You don't vote against the certification of an election and try to overthrow it if you're a moderate. After you just condemned Trump a few weeks earlier, and you even were yelling at him on the phone to stop what was going on January 6th. McCarthy probably did more than any other single figure to change the narrative when the Nancy Maces, the phonies like them, were at least pretending that what Trump did was horrible. And that was the narrative, and they felt like they had to stick with it. He changed it by going down there. You don't support a sham impeachment. You don't attack the other party and blame them for a near government shutdown when they bailed your ass out. And you don't lie to Joe Biden about keeping spending levels the same. And then, of course, break that promise you made around the time of the debt ceiling a couple months ago to give in to the far right of your caucus. McCarthy was a joke. He's nothing. And his speakership will amount to nothing. It'll be half a page in a history textbook somewhere nobody will ever read.